Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got the Italiano with me as usual. We are doing our D23 Brazil predictions. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it up next on OGZ 50 Easy. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We're doing our D23 Brazil predictions. Before we dive into the festivities, Mr. Italiano, welcome back, sir.
Glad to be back. Always a good time doing these recordings with you, bro. All talking about the studios, the parks, predictions, corporate, all that good jazz.
Absolutely. We got a video tonight with Seymour. We got a lot of content. George and I have been very busy with the content lately. We did a lot of live shows. We did one last night, but we have a lot of content on the horizon for you, more member exclusive stuff as well. But the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is, a sticky Italiano. There they are, the lovely ladies of Kiss of Life. George the Italiano, let's go ahead and break this down. So November 8th, 9th, and 10th of, it's coming up, dude, just a few days from now, the 8th, the 9th, and 10th, D23, the ultimate fan event coming to Brazil. Now, you can't have a fan event with no announcements. I mean, there's going to be announcements at this thing. Now, do I think that there's going to be announcements that are going to rival what we got in Anaheim? No, it will not be. But we will still get some stuff. We're probably, well, before we do that, I mean, George, do you think that that this is, well, in your opinion, I mean, I personally don't think so, but in your opinion, do you think this is going to be a announcement heavy expo, or do you think it'll be kind of on the lighter end, or where do you kind of stand with it? Where do you gauge this?
I personally feel in the very beginning, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, okay, this is going to be like the D23 event that they held in Japan, got some news and what have you. But I think it's quite interesting where Disney then moved D23 to a location like Brazil just only a few months after the California one, when all the news is kind of still fresh, and I immediately thought, obviously we're pretty much going to hopefully hear some dates on when projects are starting, when projects are opening, locations on where these projects are going to go, possibly some detail like within some of the lands or the attractions, maybe some names for the attractions themselves. But then I started seeing what the open schedule was going to be for this event. And on November 9th, they are holding their own Disney Parks Experience panel, just like they did in California. And I don't think it's going to be a loaded presentation like it was in California, but I do speculate that we may get some announcements that we were not expecting to hear at Brazil's D23, because they needed to kind of hold on to some announcements to utilize, because if they made all the announcements in California, there'd be nothing for D23. So I think that it won't be as like a lot like we got in California, but I do think we may get some hidden surprises here or there, on top of the speculation that we're going to get announcement dates for closures, construction, and opening dates.
Yeah, due to the part of the world that this is being held at, Brazil, I would imagine we're going to get a lot of news on the projects that we heard about at D23 Anaheim, right? So we might hear a lot about the Encanto attraction over at Animal Kingdom, and even that whole area, the tropical Americas. I would expect a lot of news in regards to that. So I would expect that for sure. I would agree with you, George. I do think we're going to see some there will be some surprises kind of sprinkled in. They're stuff that we haven't heard about, right? I'm not really super bullish, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not super bullish on hearing too much about Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have too much. They may, but I saw the schedule, and there are certain pavilions that are going to be around the like the expo showroom floor, and there is going to be one for Walt Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, and Disney Plus and ESPN, but there isn't one for Disneyland. I thought that was very interesting. But speaking of which, that they have one for Disney Cruise Line. One of my early speculations was that once tomorrow announced that there was going to be 4 more ships added to the 5 that we already have, plus the 4 that's on the horizon, no pun intended, with a grand total of 13 ships thus far. I have a feeling one of the ports of call for one of those cruise ships is going to be South America.
That's a good guess. Disney's getting really aggressive in the cruise line game. That would be a smart move. And that would be actually, to be honest with you, that would be kind of a big deal. I mean, that's a big announcement.
Yeah.
But it also kind of piggybacks off of what the Anaheim announcement was, where they were expanding the fleets, I mean, by a lot, you know what I'm saying? So that would be kind of cool. That would be something I would be very, very, very interested in doing, actually.
Yeah. It may even be one of the probably like the first of the 4 ships. I don't know if they're that far along where we would get like any names of the ships. I don't think we're quite there yet, but they may just make the announcements that, South America, Brazil, is going to be part of the Disney Cruise Line itinerary.
Yeah, that would be that's the kind of announcement that I would expect from this event. In terms of Disneyland, I would really hope that we would get some news on like the Pandora and stuff. Like I really want to know out of everything that Anaheim is getting, that's the one thing I'm the most curious about.
Yeah.
And I just hope, and I don't think we're going to get this. Just make full disclosure, I really don't think we're going to get any news on it. But I would love for them to announce where it's going in DCA. Like where is this going? Like at least give us like, yeah, I don't even need artwork for it. I don't even need anything like that. All I really need is like in 2026, Hollywood Land is closing to make way for Pandora. Done. That's all I freaking need. Like just do that, and I'm a happy OG. Do I think they're going to do that? No, because I still think they're kind of working that out internally. I don't even think they necessarily have anything locked in yet with the location.
I kind of hope that they do. I'm kind of like in the middle ground with it, to be honest, because for as long as we've been waiting since Iger had mentioned the Avatar experience,
right?
We got kind of vague descriptions at RD23 when it came to Pandora. Like we got the concept art of like how it's going to map out of how the land is going to look. They gave us kind of like an in-depth look on the e-ticket attraction, but they didn't go into detail as far as like merch, restaurants, the possible second attraction. So I think they may dive into that a little bit, but I don't know. I think maybe they were saving all that for the back end for Brazil. I'm hoping. And being that it's not necessarily like in Mexico, but it's still that kind of Latin culture, I definitely think on top of hearing about Encanto and Tropical Americas, we may hear also where Coco will eventually end up in DCA as well.
That's a good point. Yeah, the Coco thing might be more of a sure thing. Getting a little more detail on the location, maybe a little more detail on the attraction itself, maybe giving us some more artwork. It's a good point. Yeah, Coco is a real big possibility. I think that's probably for Brazil, this expo. I think that's probably more likely than anything Pandora related.
Yeah.
Now Disneyland's 70th is obviously just around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might hear some Disneyland 70th stuff because I know that they were holding off in Anaheim. Obviously, they didn't give us anything in Anaheim. They gave us the logo. That's it.
Yeah.
And obviously we're getting stuff for the anniversary, right? They just announced Paint the Night. I'm sure that's gonna be part of the celebration, but we might hear some stuff for that in this expo. in terms of like, hey, new daytime parades coming to Disneyland Resort next year, or hey, new fireworks show to celebrate the 70th. There might be some news like that in regards to entertainment for the 70th. Do you think that's a possibility for Disneyland at this expo?
I actually do, because I think that's a great tactic, because I believe that Disney is going to try to get as much tourism into Disneyland as possible. I think they're trying to kind of get away from just it being a locals hangout, so to speak. And so I think that they're maybe trying to get a lot of international travelers to go to Disneyland. So what a better way to entice them than to make announcements for the 70th anniversary of Disneyland in a different country during this expo. I think that'd be really a really great strategy plan on Disney's behalf. Plus, I believe there's a new book that's being released by I think it's Don Hahn and somebody else that they kind of co-wrote for Disneyland's 70th. I have to try to find that link of what the title is. It's like Walt Disney's Wonderful Disneyland or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the title of the book. But they're going to have to make announcements soon for the 70th, because usually they make more adjustments during like Destination D and what have you. But
Right.
by the time the next Destination D rolls around, the 70th would already be in full swing. So they have to utilize an event big enough that can get the word out on the 70th. And they didn't do that with California's D23. So
Right.
what better way to do it for the Brazil one?
Yeah, no, exactly. There's a good chance we're going to get some of those details fleshed out at this expo, or they might not. Disney's kind of weird about stuff like that. Like they'll have an expo, not announce stuff, and then like 3 days later they announce it like in a press release.
That is true too.
They do that all the time. So it's possible they don't, and we just get it a week later, like as a normal release.
Or sometimes we may even hear some announcements this coming week before the expo even happens. They may make the announcement and then get into full detail there, like after the initial announcement.
Yeah, they did that. They did that for the last D23. I think they were announcing a few things or releasing a few things prior, like right before the expo. And people were kind of upset about that. Like, why didn't you just do that at the expo? Yeah. Kind of weird. There's a lot of weird decisions, but yeah, I mean, whether we get Disneyland's 70th anniversary stuff at this expo or not, that news is coming soon. I mean, it has to. It's next year, right? 2025 is 2025 is the 70th. Like, there has to be like they have to let people know what's going on. It's probably going to start. Usually, it's probably not going to start in January, obviously, but like oh man, I almost lost my handy dandy
your handy dandy
highlighter. Yeah, but it's probably gonna, the celebration will probably start like around like May-ish. Typically it's when these events start. So I think they're gonna have to get this announcement out fairly soon to kind of get people hyped for it and stuff. So I mean, Tiana's now is behind us basically. I mean, it's opening November 15th. Mm-hmm. Which is a fantastic attraction, by the way. I don't care if the Splash Mountain people get mad at me. I don't care. I went on it with Theme Park Wizard, like a week ago now, or almost a week ago, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Not perfect, but really, really good. But now that Tiana's is sort of in the rear view, and it's opening, and we're done with that. Now they can start to push the 70th and kind of get that going. So I think we're going to hear stuff soon, whether it's Brazil or whether it's a month after that or something. I don't know, but we'll see.
Because especially, I agree with you. I think like April, May will be like the time frame that they kick off the celebration, because around the summertime when even though technically summer right now isn't a busy time for the theme parks, it's usually around the holidays. But I think that might change for Disneyland in a sense with the 70th, and plus with again, Tiana's opening fairly soon to the public. We're going to have the Walt Disney animatronic show tied to the Lincoln Theater. As you mentioned earlier, Paint the Night. So yeah, there's a lot coming soon to Disneyland that can hype it up. And again, I think they may be using the D23 Brazil as a tactic to get international travelers over there during that time.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I do think that Disney World, out of the two domestic resorts, I think Disney World will probably get more at this expo. Yeah. Just because they have that Tropical Americas area coming. And this is kind of the perfect fan event to sort of flesh out that, You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But like you said, we probably will get a little bit of Coco stuff here at Disneyland. You never know, and
Yeah.
maybe your cruise line thing. That is something that a lot of people aren't talking about. That is a very big possibility, George.
Yeah, I think out of everything, I'm like almost certain. I would be shocked to high heaven and low hell that if they don't make an announcement with the cruise line that South America or Brazil is going to have a port of call um for Disney Cruise Line. Now, that also begs the question, speaking of Walt Disney World, could we potentially see a Brazil or South America area in Epcot for World Showcase?
Um,
Now, again, now that gets a little bit iffy because I mean, you could put like an Encanto theme area in there. I mean, they probably wouldn't do two attractions since one is going in Animal Kingdom, but they're going to utilize IP heavily on that. And I know Epcot just recently gone through, a lot of renovations and everything. But here's the thing: that was on the future side. They didn't touch anything for World Showcase.
they didn't. I don't think it's impossible that Epcot will get a new pavilion, and I don't think it's impossible that it will be Brazil. I think that's there's a good chance there. I don't think they're going to announce that at this expo. I think that's too big of a story to announce at like D23 Brazil. In my opinion, I think that but if it's a Brazil pavilion though, I don't know. That's a tough call, man. I don't know. I'm leaning no on that though. I just think that's a big news story, and I don't think that. I think there's so many projects already lined up. I can't see them dropping a big bombshell like that right
Okay,
now.
so speaking of a big bombshell, here's a really far-fetched one. And I don't think they're going to do this because I think the fandom would be pissed at Disney if they did this. But I wonder if Disney did this because they didn't really know how the fandom would react in the States, so they saved it for Brazil. Could we potentially finally hear something about the Tomorrowlands?
Oh, I mean, it's possible. I just feel like with these ancillary expos, like the one they had in Japan and the one they're having here in Brazil, I just don't think we're going to get big stuff like that at this. I think we're going to get, like you said earlier on in the show. I mean, we will get surprises. We'll probably get news that like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. But like a new pavilion at Epcot, a new Tomorrowland, these are big stories. And to announce it at D23 Brazil, I just personally can't see it. Do I want it? Yes. I can't. Yeah, I don't think so, in my
See,
opinion.
because the reason why I brought that up is because if you remember when we were there and they were showing like the little montage of like the different locations of like the Disney parks and the Disney Cruise Line and everything, at the very end, before they showed the final castle, they showed the Tomorrowland entrance.
Right.
So that tells me that they have announcements to make for Tomorrowland, but for some reason they didn't do it at this expo.
Yeah, that's a good point. We were sitting there at the expo together, and we looked at each other. We're like, "Oh wow, Tomorrowland!" I mean, it was part of the graphic, and people might say, "Oh, well, you're reading too far into it," um, But when it comes to that kind of stuff, no, we're not. I mean, Disney is very calculating, and it's like car commercials, right? Like it's not an accident. Like if they're trying to market, if a car company like Honda is trying to market to a certain demographic, like let's say they want to market to males from 18 to 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have things in that commercial to market to males 18 to 25. You're going to have the hot chick sitting in the seat next to you, the 18 to 25-year-old male driving, right? You're going to have things that market to that demo. These companies are very cognizant of that. It's very deliberate. So when you have a graphic at the fan event of Tomorrowland, they didn't do every land. It wasn't, they picked certain things for a reason. They picked Tomorrowland for a reason. There was likely some sort of big announcement, like you were saying, George, for Tomorrowland. So yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, maybe they will. Man, for the expo in Brazil, I don't know. I would love for it to happen though. And you're absolutely right. They did have something. They had enough to have that graphic.
Exactly.
And that was not an accident. With that kind of look, okay, it's no secret. Oh, I'm an overthinker. Okay, I do. I overthink shit, all the time. Right? That's my vice. Okay, But when it comes to Disney and when it comes to what they do, everything is so deliberate and calculated.
Yeah.
It's not overthinking. When you see a graphic at that expo and it's of Tomorrowland, they didn't choose that. They didn't like just pick that out of a hat and decide, oh, that looks cool. We'll do that one, you know? Trust me. It was in there for a reason. They had something.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people were talking about it. Everyone was for sure, you know, the People Mover was going to return to Disneyland. And I mean, that would have been a nice surprise for Disneyland's 70th.
Yeah.
For sure. But they may be saving that for the 75th. You know, that's not too far along. You know, it's only 5 years away from the 70th. So you never know if they're kind of waiting on that. Who knows? Maybe we'll get the announcement for your Westcott. You know, you never know.
You never know, bro. I'm telling you, man. You are the king of manifesting. When you know, you are, George. You manifest like crazy. You know, I hope you're right, bro. I hope that goes into the universe and the universe delivers us a Westcott announcement. That would be such a beautiful day.
Because that would be kind because it ties into the Hispanic, Latin, Mexican culture of California. And then plus being in Brazil, it has to do with a lot of traveling and cultures. It's like, come on, you could set it up right there for Westcott.
Come on.
Lemon squeezy. Come on.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, man. I haven't said that in a long time. I missed it. Shout out to La Seraphim because they are amazing. We love those girls.
Yes,
but George, this is a really good conversation, and I'm very curious to see when we're gonna do a video with Danielle, right?
Yes.
We met her at Disneyland recently, like what was like last week, I think.
Yes.
And we met her at Disneyland. We love Danielle. She's awesome. And D Magic Girl, right?
Right.
And we had to talk about we're going to get her back on the show when the Brazil Expo is done, and we're going to have her on and kind of break down these announcements, right? Yes. I'm kind of curious when we do that video with her, how right or how wrong we were in this video.
Exactly. See, that's why I love doing that kind of stuff, because we did a D23 prediction video for our D23. So I thought, yeah, this would be kind of cool since we're a week away, maybe do one for Brazil. Because here's the thing, also with Walt Disney World, I don't think we're going to get too much more news on the Cars and Villains area. I don't think they're that far along to give like in-depth description of what's going to be within the lands themselves, because we already know the placement. You know, it's going in Magic Kingdom and it's going to replace the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island. I think that's as far as we're going to get for that. So I don't think we're going to get any more news on that. I do, however, hope we finally figure out where Monsters Inc. is going to go.
Yeah, that is something that we might see. I think the bulk of the stuff we're going to get, I think, at Brazil will be fleshing out what was already announced.
Yes.
The bulk of it will be that kind of stuff. But it's going to be fun, dude. It's going to be interesting. We have a lot of great content for everybody in the next week or even weeks. I mean, we have a collabo with December Lava, or her name is December Lava on Instagram, Marilyn. She's super fun. She's been a friend of the channel for a really long time, but we're gonna have her on the channel for the first time very soon. Check that out. We have obviously, you know, our fam, you know, Seymour and everybody, Webba and all that. We have a lot of great stuff lined up in the next few weeks, but so keep an eye out for everything. And when this expo drops and when that news drops, we will be here to talk about it 100%. But George, from a very chilly, brisk Pennsylvania, where can everybody find you on social media?
You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And as far as with the D23 Brazil event goes, I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic. And I believe, if memory serves me correctly, November 8th, they're going to talk about the studio side of the company. The 9th is going to be the parks. And then on the 10th, they kind of go back to the studio, which is very interesting. But they're not talking about Disney Animation and Pixar. They're going to dedicate a complete day for Star Wars and Marvel.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So we might get some Star Wars and Marvel news. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know, give the YouTubers some material to what's the word for it? Grift off of. There's a lot of grifting coming off of Star Wars. People were living off that acolyte thing for like way too long.
Yeah.
You know, oh my gosh. Look, dude, I'm a huge Star Wars guy. I do love Star Wars, but even I got sick of seeing it. I would go on YouTube and like you log into YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like every other freaking video is about the acolyte and how much the acolyte sucks. I'm like, come on, you guys, let's talk about something else. But anyway, if they announce some Star Wars stuff, it's going to be a whole big to do. But I'm excited. This expo should be pretty fun. It's gonna be really cool. Is this the first time it's being held at Brazil?
First time.
Interesting. Yes. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they've only done one other international D23, and that was in Japan. So this is their second international D23.
Gotcha. All right. Well, everybody home, let us know. What do you think? What are your predictions, speculations for D23 Brazil? We would love to hear from you. George, we're going to end this video like we always end this video with the one, the only, the queen.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.